The first thing you need to do is to select your photo and make sure your photo, you can see everything from it. Let's see. So if I was to pick out a picture, let's say I wanted to use this particular picture. Right now, my face is very, very dark. So this is the type of thing I would want to bring into Photoshop and actually lighten up a little bit so I could see some more midtones, more highlights and shadows from here. It's just a little bit too dark. Do that before you jump into Illustrator. Once we are in Illustrator, just going to make a new document, File and New. As far as the size goes, it really doesn't matter since it's vector. And you're going to be placing this in with other things. But I'm just going to work on tabloid because it's nice and relatively big. We're going to place our image from here. File and Place. And it's on the desktop. There's Singer, JPEG. This is the JPEG that I put on Moodle. So if you want to use it, if you don't have any images to work from today, you can. It's relatively big, so we need to scale it down some. Since I'm in my Layers palette, I've got my photograph on one layer. I'm going to lock it down so I don't accidentally draw on it, and then make a new layer on top. From here, this is going to be my tracing layer. The first thing I need to do is to trace off just an outline of all the major shapes. And to do this, we're going to use the pencil tool. Pencil tool looks like a pencil. With this one, as long as I click and drag, it'll make a shape that I'm working with. However, I need to modify my pencil so that it works really well. If you double click on the pencil tool, this will open up the options. Here's the options that you'll need for this particular style of illustration. First of all, the tolerances, if you keep them low, you'll have a very clear drawing line. It won't be so smooth, it won't try to correct itself too much. Keep those numbers low. We do want to fill in whatever color that we have with the fill color, and we don't want to keep it selected or be able to edit it. So as far as setting up your pencil, this is the way it needs to be for there. We'll say OK. And what I'm going to do first is draw off the basic necessary parts of the face. Just for the sake of time, I'm only going to work on the face instead of doing the whole thing. As far as my fill color goes, we'll set it to black, and I'm going to draw off each little area. You can do this with the mouse. I've got my tablet hooked up so it can go a little bit quicker. And that's what I'm doing. You're tracing it off. If you can trace, you can do this. Can't do this in Miss DP's drawing class. No tracing there. But I'm looking for that overall shape. Tell you what, just so we can see it, I'm going to swap everything to red. It's usually black on top of a darker color. Can't be seen too well. Here's another thing. If I do want to draw a line, let's say get the outline of her nose right here. If I was to just click and drag and draw off that line, when I release, that's the type of image that I get. The reason why it's doing that is because, remember, you're filling it in. You're actually not drawing a stroke from there. So what you want to do, if you draw it, is to go down and actually double back. And if your line gets off by a little bit, that will pick up that particular type of line. Of course, the closer you are, the thinner the line, and you can go over it again and again if necessary. What I'm looking for is just that particular shape. Same way for this area. If I wanted to draw it, there it is there. I can turn off my photo. You can see it's starting to come together. If I did the lips, one thing I like to do rather than one continuous line is kind of give it a break. So several short lines. Just to make it look a little sketchy. There we go. Brief indication of teeth. And right there. And also I'll do the outline, basic outline of her face as well. We had several people from the last class use blurry photos, and they were able to pull out a lot of details. Basically taking a photograph that couldn't be published, making something rather nice out of it. It works. Okay, that'll be good for now as far as the way that looks. Remember, you do want to outline it in black, so let's swap that up for black. Okay, now that I've got that, let's add some color to the area that we're working on. If you're following on the exercise, this will be the back of the page. Make a new layer. This time, for the color layer, this is going to be in between our black outline and our photo layer that we're working on. So I'm going to select layer 1 and make a new one on top of that. I am locking down both of them so I don't accidentally draw on the wrong one. Working in layer 3. For this one, to pick the colors that are in the photograph, we're going to use our eyedropper tool. With the eyedropper, of course, anywhere that I click, it's going to make my fill color be that particular color. This is how we're going to pick up on that area. What you as the artist need to do is to pay attention to where color areas are. So if I had a shadow, here's a shadow shape here at the top. Here's a lighter area. It gets into an even lighter area. Lighter areas down here. So as I start to pick it, I'd pick from there, grab my pencil tool, and start drawing it off. And like I said, the more loose you are, the more abstract it'll look. The smaller the area, the more detailed it'll start to look. Here's another tip. The keyboard shortcut to quickly pick the eyedropper tool is the I. It's easy to remember, I for eyedropper. Keyboard shortcut for the pencil tool is the N. So I can press I and N and be swapping back and forth between the two. So I, pick up a color, N, grab my pencil, and start drawing. Now I'm actually overlapping certain areas. I, pick up a color, N, start drawing. I, pick up a color, N, I, pick up a color, N. I and N, just to do that. Coming together. Squint your eyes, sometimes you can see little areas a lot better. I, pick up that color. I hate that the eyedropper tool looks almost similar to pencil tool. You get into the zone, you start drawing, you don't realize which tool you have. Pick up a color in. Don't like that one. I. Intentionally overlapping certain areas. Okay, let's finish this up. Let's get her lips. And basically what I'm looking for highlights, shadows, and midtones. You can get those three values within a face or any part of the face, and everything will come together. So far, so good. Cool, let's stop right there. So, this is what I've gotten so far. Not too bad. I've taken the photograph and I've illustrated it. I could go back and clean up, I could add more highlights or more shadow details, but in general, this is what I'm looking for. Something that looks illustrative to using your layout. Here's the second part. Let's add some more detail, make it pop out just a little more. Right now, all of the objects are working in just normal blending mode. If I was to select them, however, I'm still working in layer 3, open up your transparency palette, change your blending mode to either multiply or screen. Let me hide my selection. If I screen it, the little areas that are overlapping will become slightly lighter. And so I get an even more kind of artistic type feel. If I change it to multiply, those areas will become darker. And so now I've taken an illustration, and besides looking like flat colors, they actually look like tiles, one on top of each other. And if you do this for the rest of the photograph, let's see, I'll put it back to normal. Especially in the hair, especially in the smaller details, it looks really, really cool. It makes it pop out as a graphic type piece. This is what I did for the overall thing. So if you look at her hair, the hair is very, very undetailed. All I did was go very quickly, give an idea of the direction, the movement of the hair. I've got highlights, I've got darker areas, I've got midtones, and I'm intentionally overlapping them. Same way for her top of her dress. The dress itself has the feel of fabric bunching up, highlights, strands of highlights and shadows, and so my illustration gave that feel as well, putting some just spotches of color on top of that. The way they interact once you change your blending mode, that's what makes it really, really cool as far as the extra details that I'm working on. If you spend time, break it up into individual parts. You've got the face as one part, you've got the hand, the microphone is one part, the hair is another part. It doesn't take long at all. This entire illustration is something I could have done, or actually I did, within about 45 minutes. So if you're working on a time crunch, especially for a publication, this style, this method is one way of illustrating a particular person. Now for your project, this doesn't have to be your method of illustration. You don't have to use this style, this technique for your layout. Lots of people love to go online. If you did a search for Photoshop tutorials, I'll do illustration tutorials. There are entire sites dedicated to learning how to do this type of stuff. Not what we're emphasizing for this class, but if you want to find another type of digital illustration, something where you can take your photograph and create something from it, feel free to do this. 61 best tutorials, best Photoshop training, 25 best Illustrator tutorials of all time. All these types of things can be easily used. The main thing I'm looking for is how can you use it in your overall photo layout. In my case, I'm using it kind of as a punchline to the headline that I'm working with in conjunction with all the other photos. Any questions? Pretty cool. Think y'all can do it? Okay, I'm going to turn your computer back over to y'all.